Hello there, how's it going? This is my 26th recording for the book Atomic Habits, and in this one, we will talk about chapter 14, how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Very good idea. How do we make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible? So let's read the book. So the first idea is inversion of the third law, make it difficult. So we want to make bad habits difficult. Let's see how we can do them. Sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. This is an inversion of the third law of behavior change, make it difficult. If you find yourself continually struggling to follow through on your plans, then you can make your bad habits more difficult by creating what psychologists call a commitment device. A commitment device is a commitment device is a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. It is a way to lock in future behavior, bind you to good habits, and restrict you from bad ones. Okay, what? So, if you make a commitment device, then you are locking in your future behavior. It's like signing up for a class. So now you know you're gonna go there. Commitment devices are useful because they enable you to take advantage of good intentions before you can fall victim to temptation. Whenever I am looking to cut calories, for example, I will ask the waiter to split my meal and box half of it to go before the meal is served. If I waited until the meal came out and told myself I'll just eat half, it would never work. Commitment devices increase the odds Commitment devices increase the odds that you will do the right thing in the future by making bad habits difficult in the present. However, we can do even better. We can make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Okay, so there were a lot of notes, although I only added these four ones because they made the most sense to me. So the idea is to make your bad habits hard. We have already discussed this in previous chapters, right? Especially in the first section, make it obvious. The whole idea for bad habits was to make it invisible, to remove them from your environment. The idea is you shouldn't have the option to choose bad. You shouldn't even have bad habits. For example, if you spend too much time on a smartphone, don't keep a phone with yourself. That's it. Now you don't have a choice to use a smartphone. If you eat too much junk food, take some steps so you remove exposure to it. Maybe you see restaurants when you go out, don't take your wallet with you when you go out. Things I mean when you go out you will need money, but don't take too much money so you can afford junk food, for example. And that's the idea of removing bad habits, but he is going a step further and talking about how to make them impossible. Now, for example, I have joined gym, and when I have joined gym, bad habits have kind of become impossible for me because if I do something that harms my health, that will affect my performance. So I don't even have a choice to indulge in bad habits now because I don't want to affect my performance at any cost whatsoever. So I will always look at bad habits with contempt. I would say junk food or too much resting, anything that is bad for my mind and body, I will look at it with contempt. That's how I made bad habits impossible. You can say it's a commitment device because I'm going to the gym. Now I don't have a choice of bad habits. Okay. So how to automate a habit and never think about it again. Okay, so he's talking about automation, and a big part of automation is technology, and we will talk about technology as well. The best way to break a bad habit is to make it impractical to do. Increase the friction until you don't even have the option to act. The brilliance of the cash register was that it automated ethical behavior by making stealing practically impossible. Rather than trying to change the employees, it made the preferred behavior automatic. Yeah, he talks about the invention of cash register. Before the invention, uh, employee theft was very common. Unless you are looking at the employees, there was no way to make sure that no one is stealing the money. But after cash register was invented, the reason to invent the cash register was to prevent theft, honestly. If no one was stealing, you wouldn't need a cash register. So after the invention, it made stealing practically impossible. So most of the technological things have made some bad behaviors impossible. You can also look at CCTV cameras. Now, when people know they are being watched, they won't do anything negative. Now, there are some examples. There were a ton of examples in the book. But as I said, if I copy and paste everything, then there would be no difference between the book and my notes. So let's read these ones. Productivity. Unsubscribe from emails. Turn off notifications and mute group chats. Delete games and social media apps on your phone. Yeah, this one. Very important. Of course, there are many ways to automate good habits and eliminate bad ones. Typically, they involve putting technology to work for you. Technology can transform actions that were once hard, annoying, and complicated into behaviors that are easy, painless, and simple. It is the most reliable and effective way to guarantee the right behavior. So, there are two examples on how you can use technology for your advantage. Cooking. Meal delivery services can do your grocery shopping. Exactly, very good. Productivity. Social media browsing can be cut off with a website blocker. I'm not 100% sure how this will work because I have some counter arguments for this one, honestly. First of all, I think you can also uninstall it, and if you block social media websites, isn't this going to make you crave it more, right? For example, if you take away drugs from a drug addict, he will become very tense thinking about that he can't use drugs anymore. If you cut off your social media, you might start thinking that I can't use social media. That's just my idea. Another way would be to actually keep social media apps but focus on something else. And there are extensions that can make social media apps boring as well. I actually use those extensions. I can show you. I can show you. I like YouTube, but if I go to YouTube, let me show you how it looks like. Let me show you. Nothing. Nothing. It shows me nothing. In order to watch a video, I can either search, let's say, for example, Game Chops. They are music publishers, and I love listening to their music. So I can search and watch anything I like, or I can go to my subscriptions. But when I go to the website, I see nothing. So anything I want to see, it has to be intentional. So that's how I use social media, especially YouTube. I don't block it. When you automate as much of your life as possible, you can spend your effort on the tasks machines cannot do yet. Each habit that we hand over to the authority of technology frees up time and energy to pour into the next stage of life. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I did with Reddit as well. Let me see. These are the only two websites I use honestly, but I try to limit my exposure to them by changing the settings so there is no feeds. If I want to see anything, I will search it. That's it. I can't watch random content. That has improved my productivity a lot, and now I can use social media only for the good things. If I really want to see something, I will just look for it. So, yeah, so idea of technology is to use it so it's good for you, so instead of it being bad for you. But now we are looking at the dark side of technology. So let's see. The power of technology can work against us as well. Binge watching becomes a habit because you have to put more effort into stop looking at the screen than to continue doing so. Instead of pressing a button to advance to the next episode, Netflix or YouTube will autoplay it for you. All you have to do is keep your eyes open. Yeah, when I think about Netflix and YouTube, well, I grew up in a time when there was no internet. I mean, internet existed, but I didn't have access to it. So, our source of entertainment was television. And in television, there used to be a lot of commercials. So, if you're watching a 2 hour movie, it would take you about 3 hours. There were roughly 1 hour of commercials scattered around the movie. So that had made television watching very unpractical for us and very boring. Although we liked watching movies, but trying to watch every movie with commercials was very hard. But looking at the internet now, there are no commercials. I mean, on YouTube there are 1 or 2 minutes commercials, but that's bearable. But in the old times, I mean, not old times, like 10 or 15 years ago, when I used to watch television, it was a wild fantasy to be able to watch it without commercials. But now on Netflix, not only you can watch a movie, but you can watch it at 2 times of the speed. And that's what people do. They binge watch, right? They have a series of, let's say, 10 episodes, 1 hour each. They will watch them non-stop for 5 hours with twice of the speed. So they are watching the entertainment worth of 3 months in one sitting. Isn't that crazy? Entertainment of 3 months. That's that's how long it would take, right? 10 weeks. So that's 2.5 months. If you air one episode per week, but people watch 3 months worth of entertainment in just one sitting. That's how crazy technology has become. Technology creates a level of convenience that enables you to act on your smallest whims and desires. That's such a powerful idea. How can you do good when you always have the option to do bad? At the mere suggestion of hunger, you can have food delivered to your door. At the slightest hint of boredom, you can get lost in the vast expanse of social media. Exactly, I really hate social media. All people do is just argue about meaningless things all day, all night. I don't understand what I don't understand. Don't they have anything better to do with their life at all? And they also share their own personal life. Who cares about about how you are living your life? No one cares, but that's what people do. Instagram, for example, people spend their entire lives curating their Instagram profiles. That's addictive. That's addictive. Technology creates a level of convenience that enables you to act on your smallest whims and desires. At the mere suggestion of hunger, you can have food delivered to your door. At the slightest hint of boredom, you can get lost in the vast expanse of social media. When the effort required to act on your desires becomes effectively zero, you can find yourself slipping into whatever impulse arises at the moment. Now, this is the personal story of the writer. I don't, I liked it, so I included it. So let's read it. I often find myself gravitating towards social media during any downtime. If I feel bored for just If I feel bored for just a fraction of a second, I reach for my phone. It's easy to write off these minor distractions as just taking a break, but over time they can accumulate into a serious issue. Exactly. That's what we mean by habits are double-edged sword. Whatever you do once, I mean whatever you repeat will become easier. So this is how a smartphone you get a smartphone addiction, don't you? You say I'm just taking a break. So for example, you have a desk job, you work on your desk, and after every hour or so you check your phone, you get off your bed, you check your phone, you go to your bed, you check your phone, you eat, when when you're eating you check your phone. So over the course of the day you have checked your phone at least 50 times. But that's how they become a habit. And as we said in the chapter 11, repetition makes a habit. You are repeating this behavior and it becomes a habit, and one day it becomes a full-blown addiction. The constant tug of just one more minute can prevent me from doing anything of consequence. I'm not the only one. The average person spends over 2 hours per day on social media. What could you do with an extra 600 hours per year? Wow, that's a food for thought, right? During the year I was writing this book, I experimented with a new time management strategy. Every Monday, my assistant would reset the passwords on all my social media accounts, which logged me out on each device. All week, I worked without distraction. On Friday, she would send me the new passwords. On Friday, she would send me the new passwords. I had the entire weekend. I had the weekend to enjoy social media until Monday morning when she would do it again. Okay, so he had an assistant who would just lock him out of social media every week. One of the biggest surprises was how quickly I adapted. Yeah, I mean, you would adapt if you don't have a choice, right? If you don't have a choice, you will adapt very quickly. Within the first week of locking myself out of social media, I realized that I didn't need to check it nearly as often as I had been, and I certainly didn't need it each day. Yeah, most of the content of social media is trash. It's it's just noise. That's why I don't scroll newsfeed. That's why I don't want to know what is going on in the world, because it's all trash. It's all noise. But I like to consume things that I want to consume. For example, if I want to study book 48 laws of power, I will go to YouTube, I will search 48 laws of power, and or for example, if I want to learn something about computers, let's say a new programming language, I will search about it, but I will never scroll through the feeds. That's all noise. You don't need to. He's saying you don't need to check it every day. I will say you don't need to check it at all. It's all new noise. It's all feeded by the algorithm. They don't care about you. They only want you to spend your time. That's it. Within the first week of locking myself out of social media, I realized that I didn't need to check it nearly as often as I had been, and I certainly didn't need it each day. It had simply been so easy that it had become the default. Yeah, path, path of least resistance, right? Once my bad habit became impossible, I discovered that I did actually have the motivation to work on more meaningful tasks. After I removed the mental candy from my environment, it had it became much easier to eat the healthy stuff. Yeah, good story. That's why I included it. So, I think this is it for this video. In the next one, we will go over the summary and we'll begin the next chapter. So, so the good thing is we are done with make it easy. I mean, not done. We will be done with make it easy in the next video. But then we'll be starting the next section, make it satisfying, the last step that completes the habit loop. So I'm super excited and I'm looking forward to the next one.